Am I the butthole for telling my Sil that no one in our family is named Stephanie? I can't figure out if I did anything wrong, or if so, what, because I honestly have no idea what's going on. Hopefully someone here can give me a clue. Here's the relevant info, as far as I know. My brother and his wife are expecting their first girl after 2 boys. I love Ricky and Jace, and so does my Sil, but she has always wanted a girl and is very excited to be having one. She also wants to name the girl Chloe, as she loves that name. My brother hates the name Chloe and really wants to name their daughter Stephanie. They have been arguing about it for a few weeks, since finding out the gender. I got to my parents' house late last night and my Sil was the only person still awake. We talked for a little bit, and she asked me the weirdest question. She asked me if I knew any stories about Great Aunt Stephanie. I was so confused. I literally said who? Sil clarified that she was talking about our grandmother's older sister that died when Grandma was a little girl. Our grandma had 2 sisters, but their names were Judy and Lynn. There's no one in our family named Stephanie, as far as I know. I told as much to my Sil. She changed the subject after that, and we soon went to bed. This morning my brother and his wife were both sulking during breakfast. Even the kids could tell. Ricky kept saying stop being grumpy on Christmas. So it wasn't just my imagination. I got my brother alone and confronted him. He snapped at me for meddling and told me to stay out of his marriage. My brother is pissed at me, and my Sil won't even talk to me. I'm afraid to say anything to my parents and drag them into this, especially since I still don't know what this is. Either my grandmother had a secret sister that I don't know about but my brother does for some reason, or my brother lied to his wife to convince her to name their baby Stephanie. Both options seem equally weird to me. Maybe there's a third possibility I'm not seeing? Reddit, am I the butthole? If so, please explain to me why. I don't want to be the reason Christmas is ruined. Update, most awkward Christmas Eve dinner ever. Gotta keep this short, lots going on. Everyone now knows what my brother was doing with the kids' names except the kids obviously. They are pissed. Weirdly my mom is the most pissed. A Christmas truce is in place for the kids, so no fighting on the holiday. However, the baby is definitely going to be named Chloe. My brother very quickly backed down when my mom said some few choice words to him. The topic is completely banned for the rest of festivities, so, for now at least, they've tied a bow on the situation. Christmas morning update. Aside from some glaring over a couple of the boys' stocking stuffers, Robin Funko Pops, everything went well with the gift opening, as well as being woken up at 5:30 a.m. by being jumped on by one's nephew's can. I think my brother realizes he crossed a line and has been very attentive to his wife. He mentioned getting Chloe's name embroidered on some stuff when they get home. He even told Mom he would do the Christmas breakfast so she could have a break, and he gave me an I'm sorry grin when I opened his gift. I think everything is going to be fine. Not the butthole. You cannot be expected to maintain lies you are not aware of, if you even view maintaining convenient lies as one of your duties in the first place. Way too many of these questions are because some relative refused to lie to another relative or just didn't know that a lie exists. Not the butthole. Your brother lied to get his wife to name the baby Stephanie. Not the butthole. How can you be expected to keep track of other people's fibs that you know nothing about? And are these the only 2 names these people know? They both clearly like the E ending, so what about Anemone, Ariadne, Bethany, Cicely, Clarity, Clemency, Coralie, Dulcie, Evadne, Ianthe, Marnie, Melody, Mercy, Nephili, Penelope, Persephone, Samathy, Rosalie, Rosemary, Sylvie, Tansy, Valerie, Verity or Xanthi? Am I the butthole for still having my 10 almost 11-year-old daughter in a booster seat? I, 31 female, and my husband, 33 male, have 2 wonderful kids, a son, 14 male, and a daughter, 10F, 11 in March. I am a firm believer in car seat safety and doing what is best to keep my kids safe. My daughter still rides in a high-back booster seat. She is 4,363 pounds and 10 years old. She has recently started expressing disapproval of it. A couple weeks ago we were on our way to school and I noticed she had climbed out of her booster seat. I told her to get back in it and she said she was never sitting in it again. I told her that she needed to sit in it because she was too short to ride safely with just the seatbelt. She got upset and started yelling at me saying I'm being a jerk and treating her like a baby, that she is too old for a stupid booster seat. After a minute my husband came out and asked what was going on. She told him I was being a jerk and treating her like a baby. He told her not to talk to me that way and that she needed to sit in her booster seat to keep her safe. I then got out of the car and told her that we weren't going anywhere until she was in her booster seat, and if she made us late by refusing she would deal with the consequences, and that if she continued to refuse and make us late for school or any other event she would be grounded. After that she got back into the booster seat and buckled up. Since then she hasn't refused again but still complains sometimes. Her brother told me I was being an off for treating her like a baby and that I should just let her ride with just the seatbelt. My husband says I'm doing the right thing keeping her safe, but I'm still not sure. I mean, I'm just trying to keep her safe, and she ever complained about her booster seat before. But on the other hand, none of her friends still use booster seats, and she is getting to that age where peer pressure is a very tough thing. So am I the butthole? Info: do her height and weight require her to use a booster seat in your state? As far as I know, the standard is 40 pounds and 40 inches. If she isn't legally required to be in a booster, then WIBTA. Edit: you're the butthole. She's not legally required to be in the seat. You're embarrassing her needlessly. You're the butthole. There's safety, and then there's suffocating, unnecessary safety. This falls firmly into the latter. She's almost a teenager and you're treating her like a toddler. Not to mention, if anyone at her school sees this, she'd get bullied so bad. Am I the butthole for skipping Christmas with my parents since they won't treat me like an adult? I, 27 female, have been with my boyfriend, 33, for almost 2 years now. We will be getting married eventually, but it's not a priority. My mom won't let us share a bed if we come see them for any reason. When we came over this last summer, my boyfriend suggested renting a hotel so we could have privacy and a comfortable bed. It drove my mom nuts that we bypassed her little rules. She wouldn't drop it the entire time we were there. She made me promise not to do that again. My boyfriend's mom and dad are retired to Mexico and they are really chill. So we made plans to come visit them over Christmas. They are not Christian, so they don't really care when they see their son with regards to religious holidays. We didn't tell my parents we weren't coming. My mom asked me at Thanksgiving if I was going to hold to my promise not to stay at a hotel over Christmas. I answered truthfully that I would not stay at a hotel. I am sitting here on the balcony of my future in-laws' condo looking at the Caribbean, waiting for sunrise and enjoying the peace and quiet. I made the mistake of going online yesterday and I saw a bunch of posts from my mom and my sisters about how I was a jerk for lying to them about my plans. I may have been a little tipsy last night because I decided to respond. I said that it was ridiculous of them to try and tell me I couldn't share a room with my boyfriend, that I was keeping my promise by not staying at a hotel when we were there, and that if they planned on putting everything on Facebook, I would be avoiding all visits for the foreseeable future. They took down their posts when people started crapping on them for trying to control me. But some people did agree with them. Now they are texting me and calling to say I was in butthole for making them look bad. I asked them if they were trying to make me look good with their posts. They stopped for a while, but there were more texts and voicemail this morning. I'm kind of liking the idea of skipping out on the drama from now on. But I miss my dad and he is blameless in this. Am I the butthole? #edit. I'm having trouble wrapping my head around a couple of things that keep being repeated. 1. How was staying at a hotel so we didn't break her rules not the adult choice? 2. How many of you guys fly across the country or drive for hours to just stay one night? Everybody sucks here. Your mom is horribly controlling. That's not in question. But instead of saying, I won't be spending Christmas with you this year, I'm going to the in-laws, and if I come to you again, we will stay in a hotel, you lied in such a way that they thought you'd be attending. Instead of acting in the adult manner in which you want to be treated, you behaved like a kid. Info: is there a reason you didn't just tell them up front that you would be spending Christmas with your boyfriend's family? They're buttholes for trying to control you like that, but I don't really see what you gained by misleading them about your plans. Am I the butthole for not appreciating a gift from my husband that is actually a gift to himself? It could be funny if it wasn't so sad to me. My husband of 8 years lost his earphones and always borrows mine, so I decided to get them new ones for Christmas. He also mentioned that he would like to have a better speaker to use in our kitchen and living room, so I got him one as well. Just for context, I never listen to music at home because I'm already constantly overstimulated caring for 3 children. You'll never guess what he got me for Christmas. Earphones and a speaker. Believe it or not, the exact same ones, so now we have 2 of each. I guess at least I know I got him exactly what he wanted. He started laughing his ass off, but to me it felt like a slap in the face, especially after the difficult year we've had. I couldn't believe he'd get me something only he would be using, something that wasn't actually for me. So I said a little dryly, so I got you something you wanted and you got you something you wanted. That is funny. He snapped and left the room. Later he explained that we had agreed we'd only give each other a small gift and he thought it was something practical. Am I the butthole for still being a little hurt over this? Not the butthole, he bought something for himself. Hope you've taken them back to get something you want. Not the butthole, I would be hurt as well. You feel completely unseen and not taken seriously. You sound like the primary caregiver and it's a thankless job. All we need is some acknowledgement from our partners and not some half-ass excuse for paying no attention. Release your guilt for being rightfully pissed. Not the butthole. Does he normally do things like this? He knows he was being selfish and you called it out. This is why he snapped. People who do things like that typically exhibit behaviors where they always prioritize themselves over their partners. The fact he couldn't be bothered to get you something you would like shows a distinct lack of caring. You agreed to get each other something small and couldn't be bothered to give you something meaningful? It's honestly a little cruel. My heart hurts for you. Not the butthole, and 2 takes on this. 1. Gift of the Magi, I know it's not the same, but laughs. 2. This is about lateral equal to gifting someone a home appliance. Mostly to women from men. My mom got a vacuum, a broom set, and bag of pistachios for 3 separate birthdays from my father. My mom loved cashews. Guess who loved pistachios? Am I the butthole lied about a miscarriage? Obviously a throwaway, and I know this sounds horrible, but let me explain. After several years of trying for children, we finally gave in and saw the doctor. My husband is fine. My ladybits aren't, to the point that not only am I not having kids, there's almost no option for IVF. It has hurt, but we have finally decided to invest our time into becoming the world's best aunt and uncle. The families felt differently. When are you going us grandbabies/nibblings? We aren't. We can't. After plenty of comments about it happening naturally on a vacation, well, you should see a doctor. We have. You know, there's always IVF/surrogate/adoption. Yes, we know. And no. You'll regret not having kids when you're older. Not as much as I regret this conversation. But my grandbabies. My family has finally given in and dropped it. My in-laws can't seem to comprehend that they're not getting grandkids anytime soon, maybe because my Bill is gay and the family bloodline is ending. We got together for Thanksgiving, and at the table in front of his grandparents, an aunt/uncle, and 2 cousins came the dreaded comments. We need a playmate for cousin's kid. When are you guys getting pregnant? I couldn't take it anymore. I answered we already were pregnant twice this year. But I'm not anymore. Thanks for reminding me. It kinda ruined the mood at dinner. I talked about it with my sister and a friend. My sis understands because the in-laws were pressuring so much after we said we couldn't. Of course, her kids are the victims of our spoiling. My best friend said it was a really crafty thing to do and it disrespected anyone who lost a pregnancy. Maybe she's right, but the in-laws have finally given up. Am I the butthole for comparing my failures to get pregnant with a miscarriage? I know it's a greater loss when you're actually pregnant. But I can't take the constant questions, and they finally stopped. Not the butthole they ruined your mood, it's completely fair to ruin theirs. Maybe they'll learn to keep their mouths shut. I hate people like that. I'm so sorry you had to deal with them. Edit to add, I've miscarried twice and I don't see what you said as being disrespectful to anyone who lost a pregnancy. Not the butthole. I've had a miscarriage and honestly this would only be offensive if you had said it for attention. You did it for the opposite reason and if that's what it takes then that's what it takes. I do however feel like you have dug yourselves a hole. I doubt this will stop them asking for good and if you ever decide to tell the truth then it could be complicated. I'm a bereaved parent. In the first 2 years after my son's passing, I attended a support group for bereaved parents, pregnancy loss, and infertility grief. And one thing that I came to realize is that the pain of those who can't conceive is powerful, but often disregarded as not really a loss. Which is an odd thought process, because like those of us who had children and lost them, and like those who conceived but lost the pregnancy, you are also having to grieve the loss of a future, of dreams and hopes, and of an identity that you envision for yourself, as a parent, as a future grandparent. Not the butthole. But anybody who disrespects and disregards your grief is. Edit, thank you for the awards. Would I be the butthole if I found my ex's biological parents? I, 32 female, have a daughter, 2.5F, with my ex, 38 male. He's adopted and my daughter has only been around his adoptive parents a few times. They don't ask about her, they don't acknowledge her birthday, or Christmas and it's very clear they want nothing to do with her. They're lost entirely. Issue is, I come from a big family. My mom is one of 12. So growing up, I always had cousins around. I do have 2 nieces, 9F, 13F, and an extremely handicapped nephew, 15 male, but they're so far apart in age, I don't feel like my daughter will have the same experience growing up. My dad is an only child, and I do not know any of my extended family on my dad's side. My own grandfather has never acknowledged my sister and I. Let alone any of our kids. So my kiddo has me, my sister, my parents, her 3 cousins and my paternal grandmother. My mom only speaks to 2 of her living siblings and I'm no longer close to any of my cousins. My ex is pretty adamant that he has no interest in finding his biological parents, and of course I would respect his wishes if he doesn't want anything to do with them, but I would like to meet them and allow my daughter to meet any aunties and uncles and cousins she might have from her dad's side of the family. If for no reason other than knowing their medical histories. Would I be the butthole if I got one of those ancestors tests and tried to track down my ex's bio family? ETA, there are so many people here making half-assed assumptions. For more context, his bio dad contested the adoption, but his adoptive parents threw their money around until he couldn't afford to fight anymore. That came straight out of his mother's mouth. He doesn't see adoption as a trauma, just a fact of life for him. He's not close at all with his adoptive family, so I don't even think he understands the dynamics of actually being a part of one. We've talked about this before, and while he personally has no interest in seeking them out, he has never once said he didn't want me to. He said it was more or less my choice if I wanted to try to find them. So I'm not even asking in the context of betraying my ex or hurting him. He doesn't care. I'm just aware that it could potentially affect the lives of many people, and I'm not trying to blow anyone's life up. I just want my child to know where she comes from genetically, because I've lived in her shoes. I know what it's like to have only half of a family full of dysfunction and generational trauma. I don't want that for her. ETA 2, to all those asking why my mother is only in contact with 2 of her siblings, it's because she only has 3 brothers and 2 sisters who are still alive. Most of my cousins moved, are in jail, became right-wing fundamentalists, or are on meth or heroin. I'm not looking for a replacement family or trying to recreate my childhood with my daughter, regardless of the delusional bullcrap some of you are projecting onto me. I've had 2.5 years to get one of these tests done, and it was a conversation we started having before I was even pregnant. If I wanted to go behind his back and betray his trust, I've had plenty of opportunities. Thanks for dogpiling on me, misrepresenting what I said, projecting your negative experiences onto my situation, and calling me names like crazy and cold. I'm no longer able to respond to comments, but thanks to the people who actually read my entire post and offered constructive feedback. It's worrisome that there are so few of you left on this subreddit in particular. You're the butthole. Huge you're the butthole. Being blood related doesn't make them family. They are not his family or your family, so why make them your daughter's family while also hurting your ex in the process if this isn't something he's not ready for or wants to do? It feels cruel and selfish. If it's so important, try asking him if he'd be okay with that. If yes, go on. If no, then stop right there. You're the butthole. Absolutely not. As an adopted child, if my partner or ex-partner ever contacted my biological family without consent, I'd be livid. Like scorched earth livid. Your ex already said he has no interest in them. If you insert yourself into that storyline, and dredge up who knows what, then you'll absolutely be the villain. Do you know if it was a closed adoption? Do you know why he was adopted? Do you have any idea how hard it is for 99% of parents who put their kids up for adoption to cope with the loss of their child or the circumstances that led up to them putting their kid up for adoption? You chose to have a child with someone who has a disinterested family. That's on you. This is incredibly misguided and irresponsibly optimistic. Am I the butthole for not forgiving my father? This a bit of a long one. When I was 10, my father moved to another country to work, US from Canada. At 12, he and my mother divorced after he had an affair with a woman where he was living. After high school, my dad invited me to come live with him for my university. I agreed, as it would obviously save me a bunch of money on living expenses, and I was excited to reconnect with him and spend a few years together. What he didn't tell me until all the plans had been made and I paid for my first semester, was he had moved his GF in with him, so I'd be living with both of them. I wasn't thrilled, but it was too late now. His GF made it clear from the get-go I wasn't welcome. She felt threatened by my presence, as she was quite invested in having my father integrate completely into her large family. She excluded me from any of her family gatherings while also making sure in the 4 years I was there I didn't get literally an afternoon alone with my father. She would even insist on coming with us to the freaking hardware store. As graduation approached, she made it very clear I wasn't welcome to stay, to the point she informed me the day after I graduated if I wasn't on my way back to Canada she would call immigration on me. I let my father know and he just wouldn't believe me. So I moved back and basically stopped interacting with my father beyond yearly calls for birthdays and Christmas. 15 years later, I met my future wife, got engaged and started planning the wedding. My sisters had been on me for years to work things out with my father, so I had been making an effort for the previous 6 months prior to my engagement. I thought this event would be a chance to further mend some fences. So I invite my father and his wife, the GF I had to live with, to the wedding. At first they agreed, but about 6 weeks before the wedding he emailed to say they couldn't make it, something to do with them just selling their house. I was upset, but whatever. I was surprised when they agreed in the first place. So wedding week comes around and I see on his wife's Facebook page a post about how much fun they were having at her yearly family reunion. The kicker, the family reunion that year was at her daughter's house, less than a 2 hours drive from where I live and where the wedding was. This would be about a 14 hours drive from my father's house. So I was pretty mad, to say the least. Haven't spoken or communicated with him since then, 10 years now. He is getting old, 85, now, and my sisters tell me I'm a jerk for not speaking with him for all these years. Of course they never had to live with his wife or have any idea how I was treated while living there. They say they would have forgiven him for missing their wedding, which I know is easy to say when it didn't happen to them. Am I the butthole for not forgiving him for missing my wedding? Not the butthole. Your father has been letting you down all because his wife is insecure. You need to lay down boundaries with your sisters. If they can't respect your feelings on how your father has treated you, then they need consequences such as going LC/VLC/no contact. You're being berated for not letting yourself be ignored by your father, all in the name of F.M.E. Lee. Not the butthole he lied to you about not coming to your wedding. Tell your sisters you will visit at his funeral. Not the butthole because it's not just the wedding, it's a bunch of other stuff too. Your dad repeatedly put himself and other people before you, well into your adulthood. Why should you forgive him? He's probably not even sorry. No need to get further dissed by him and his GF/wife. You can forgive, but doesn't mean you have to have a deep relationship with him. Try explaining to your sister all the ways you got dissed and tell them to get off your back about it. Am I the butthole for not wanting my mom to use my soy sauce that I bought to age? My mom keeps using my soya sauce, organic 1-liter glass bottles. I have a total of 8, I believe, reduced to 5, even though I told her multiple times I bought them to age them. When I confront her about using them, she says things like, am I really arguing over soy sauce? She's not gonna answer anything about my stupid soy sauce. It's not important, in a raised voice. Every time I go and talk to her about, she makes it look like I'm the bad guy for wanting her to not use them. I remember she called our grandmother and she made fun of me for aging them, saying things like, people choose to age wine and he chooses to age soya sauce. It's the way how she said it. The reason why I'm aging them is a few years ago I found old soya sauce in a cupboard. I tasted it and it tasted amazing. It was thicker and much more flavorsome than the regular soy sauce. Info. How old are you? Did you look up info on how to safely accomplish your goal? Where are those bottles stored? Who paid for them? Not the butthole. It's not about the Iranian yogurt. It is about her complete lack of respect for you, your stuff, and your boundaries. Maybe it's cause I'm Asian, but I don't see why people are questioning you so hard about the soy sauce aging. That's literally not the point of this post. You may do what you like with your food and buy as much as you'd like to handle. You're 21 and buy it with your own money, so it is yours. Your mom needs to respect that, even though you live with her. She's also not respecting what you're into, which is quite rude. Not the butthole. So you ideas of aging soy sauce are wrong, in my opinion. It's shelf stable for years, but once you open it, it starts the countdown timer for going bad. Aging happens in the production process. You're buying stuff already done and bottled. Am I the butthole for telling someone annoying people at my party that we don't respect their beliefs? My 19 female family has never had a Christmas party because my mom doesn't like people sitting on our couch or touching our towels in the bathrooms, and my parents would rather just go to someone else's Christmas party. For the first time this year, we threw the Christmas party my brother and I have always wanted. I invited all my friends from school. My cousin, 18 male, has a crazy girlfriend, 18 female, and she's basically this Christian girl who is just insane. Our whole family can't wait for him to dump her when he leaves for college. She thinks the world is 6,000 years old, and always talks now about how some ancient boat was recently on a mountain, and she thinks it's Noah's Ark. She started going on and on about it at the party, in a weirdly aggressive way, like she was trying to convert everyone to Christianity, and this was the evidence she thought she needed. Almost everyone else at the party was non-religious or atheist, including my whole family. And people were all just exchanging looks and giggling at her insanity. I told her to quit her nonsense because this is the first Christmas party I've thrown, and I wanted it to be perfect. She was annoying people. She said I have to respect her beliefs. I told her none of us respect her beliefs, and we aren't Christian, so please shut up. My cousin is mad that she stormed out because she felt unwelcome. She said I have to respect her beliefs. Nope. Respect is earned. She's free to hold preposterous opinions, but no one is required to respect these preposterous opinions or obligated to listen to her prattle on aggressively about them. It was your home, your party. She was making your other guests uncomfortable and she outstayed her welcome. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. She fricked around and found out. Religious people need to learn that they can't subject everyone else to listening to their nonsense. You taught her a valuable life lesson about appropriate times and places for discussing religion. Someone else's home at a party is definitely not one of them. Not the butthole. She went to a party, not church. It's not her job to convert people at a party. Really hate when that happens. If she felt unwelcome, she needs to reflect on her own behavior, not yours. Am I the butthole for demanding Mill apologize for how she acted last year, or I won't invite her to Christmas? Mill is extremely reserved, never shows any emotion, and rarely smiles. She was like this as a child and it left her parents with major insecurities as they felt they couldn't make their own kid happy, but literally nothing made her happy. Cold is really the best word for it. A few years ago Mill met Blake and they began dating. He can actually make her happy and I think her parents are a bit jealous. It's honestly very jarring to see her show any emotion, but hey, good for her. Last year I invited my husband's whole family over for Christmas. My baby was sleeping upstairs. Mill has always hated Christmas because she doesn't want to give certain people gifts, gets mad when she is given gifts, becomes depressed if she doesn't get any, and claims she feels bullied into buying gifts for people she doesn't like. Me lol. Normally she just glares at her gift and mutters, "Thank you." Well, Blake gave her a gift and she screamed, like a real scream, loud enough to wake the baby, and jumped on him. I don't actually know what it was, tickets to something I think, but my baby immediately started crying. I was annoyed and snapped at Mill that she was inconsiderate. Mill said all I ever care about is my baby and I'm ruining Christmas. That pissed me off, so I kicked her out. Mill's parents got mad and said I should have let it go. They've never seen their daughter happy and it was sweet. I got mad and said their daughter does not come before my infant son. Well, tomorrow is Christmas and I've decided Mill can't come unless she apologizes for waking the baby and disrespecting me. She is refusing and says she didn't mean to scream and I'm crazy and overreacting. She is currently not invited and I'm getting a lot of crap from the rest of the family. Honestly, I don't think I'm backing down. She can apologize or spend tomorrow alone. You're punishing someone for a spontaneous expression of joy at Christmas, and you want applause for that? My friend, you're the butthole. You had 360-something days to uninvite her and you decided to do it now? For waking up your baby a year ago? Because she was happy for once? You're the butthole. You're the butthole. You clearly don't like her and were looking for a reason to hold something over on her and got your reason and are using your child as an excuse. Now you're holding on to this very dumb petty reason a full year later and holding everyone's Christmas hostage as a result. This is a very weird hill to die on. Let it go, dude. Am I the butthole for giving my dad the silent treatment on Christmas Eve after he made fun of my anxiety about planes in front of everyone? I, 19 female, drove 13 hours to my dad and stepmom's house a few days ago for the holidays. There's a 2 hours direct flight from my city to theirs, but flying in planes gives me a lot of anxiety. I had some very bad experiences with turbulence, so I avoid it when possible. My dad and I already disagreed and had a small argument about this. He wanted to book me a round-trip flight because he worried about the long drive, but I refused. At dinner yesterday, we had family over and they asked me about my trip. My dad unnecessarily brought up that I'm irrationally terrified of planes and then started making fun of me in front of everyone for having so much anxiety about flying. It made me feel really stupid and disrespected, so I stood up to leave the table. My dad said, "Come on, I'm just teasing. Lighten up," which set me off. I said loudly in front of everyone that I knew coming to see him for the holidays was a mistake, but my mom had told me to come spend time with him out of pity even though I'd rather be with my mom and stepdad. It wasn't true. I said it just to make him feel as embarrassed as I felt. It had the intended effect. It upset my dad and he told me to leave the table, which I did. My stepmom came to my room later and said my dad was sorry for upsetting me and that I should apologize to him as well because he's very hurt. However, he never actually apologized to me. It was her apologizing to me on his behalf. So I refused to, since he didn't even acknowledge his actions. Which is how I'm at my current state now, where my dad and I are pretending the other doesn't exist and the only person we're talking to is my stepmom. It is just as awkward and strained as it sounds. I also can't drive back because the roads are very icy right now. I think it'll be a few days before the roads clear up. Am I wrong for refusing to apologize to my dad before he first apologizes to me? Not the butthole. It's not a joke when intended target doesn't laugh. What kind of father and the fools that laughed with him think public humiliation is funny? As for your father's reaction, if can't stand the humiliation, maybe he shouldn't dish it out. Not the butthole. I'm just teasing is the mantra of the bully. Which is exactly what your dad is, a bully who purposely humiliated you in front of everyone. Not the butthole. You made the effort to visit even though it took significantly longer. He should have appreciated despite your fear of flying you made it there because you drove 13 hours to be there with him for the holidays. Then he takes the opportunity to embarrass you? Sure, maybe lying was a dick move, but don't dish it if you can't take it. Not the butthole. Your dad was rude, disrespectful and was trying to humiliate you in front of people as a way to, something? Get you to fly? Admit he's right? Be less anxious? I don't know what his goal was beyond ridicule. So if it's on for him to belittle you, why is it wrong to do the same to him? He's allowed to cut you down and say hurtful things, but you're not allowed to throw it back at him? Stay if you want, or go. And give yourself permission to cut back on your visits and calls for a while. You don't owe anyone your time, and you definitely don't have to give space in your life when people are just going to try and embarrass and ridicule you. Am I the butthole for not going home during Christmas and being honest about it? Despite my redneck upbringing and my Confederate flag-waving family, I became a pretty liberal bro. 7 years ago I visited my parents and on Christmas Day my dad and I got in an argument. I tried to stop the argument. Imagine very conservative opinion versus a pretty mainstream opinion. and by trying to not argue I made it worse. My father disowned me on Christmas Day. I've never hurt as bad as I did in that moment and the following year or so. I don't celebrate Christmas as a result. My father and I have made up, after 2 to 4 years, and honestly have the best relationship we've ever had. I still don't go home. It's a wound that I just avoid. I'm not sad, it's just a thing. Last week my mother asked if I was coming home for Christmas, and I said no, I'm too busy, flights are expensive, can't find a dog sitter, I'll come next month, etc. I was told, you bring up the same excuses every year, to which I replied, I don't really feel like celebrating the day my father disowned me. Turns out I was on speakerphone. My father heard me, and maybe worse, my grandma. I've gotten a few texts saying I'm off from siblings and family and I should suck it up and quit making it about me. I'm a selfish I try and avoid this like a plague. Should I have not said anything, or should I just go home? Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. That which can be destroyed by the truth, should be. Your family is gaslighting you. Keep your own plans. If you think their drama is bad now, it will only be worse if you give in to their manipulation and go. It's great that you've made up, but when you smash a plate on the floor and glue it back together, the cracks are still there, no matter how much you apologize to the plate, or wish you hadn't smashed it on the floor. That they're trying to pressure and guilt you is just gross in my opinion. Leave them to each other and enjoy your Sunday without them. HTH. When your father disowned you, he relieved you of any ethical duty to them. Also, if it mattered that much, they could offer to pay for the flight or really show they cared by visiting you and apologizing. Enjoy your holiday guilt-free. Not the butthole. You don't owe anybody an explanation, yet you gave the real reason when you were pressed. If your mom is embarrassed that other people heard you say that, then it's her own fault for putting you on speaker without alerting you. Not the butthole. Your family is just proving why you're making the right choice by not spending your holidays with them. Am I the butthole for expecting people to put their pets in another room when I visit because of allergies? I'm allergic to cats and dogs. As a kid I had to go to an ER twice for difficult breathing after attending sleepovers at a home with pets. I've avoided ER visits as an adult by being really cautious. It's very scary for me when I have trouble breathing. I have had the practice of asking people to put their pets in another room when I'm visiting. Of course there will still be dander in the environment, but having the pet in a different room helps a lot. I didn't think this was a big ask, but I've gotten a lot of pushback. One time a friend said she'd do it, but then she didn't close the door and acted all surprised when the dog came into the room, and didn't try to put the dog out again. It seems pretty obvious that the dog won't stay in another room if you don't close the door, so I thought maybe it was a passive-aggressive refusal. Another friend did as I asked once. We went in the basement, dogs stayed in the rest of the house. They barked and whined at the door for a while but then went away, and I thought it went well, but the next time I suggested getting together at her house the friend refused because of the dogs. I haven't been there since. Another time I went to a get-together at a friend's place, and when I asked her about putting the cat in another room, she said no because others want to play with the cat. This sort of thing happens often enough that I've given up on asking. I just leave early when I have the first sign of allergies. I manage, but I also feel bitter and hurt that my friends are so unwilling to make a safe and comfortable place for me. So I thought I'd ask the internet, am I the butthole? Is it unreasonable to expect people to put their pets in another room when I visit? ETA, okay, I think I should clarify what I mean by expect. I'm not showing up at people's houses and telling people to banish their dogs on the spot. When a friend who I know has a pet invited me or a group over, I was in the practice of explaining about my allergies and asking if the pet can be in a different room at the time I was invited. Meaning before I went over. I expected that the answer would be yes, in the same way that if someone was invited to dinner and asked their host, could you not serve peanuts? I'm allergic, I would expect the host's response to be sure not no, we serve peanuts at every meal, we cannot be without peanuts at any time. Not the butthole. I have the world's clingiest, snuggliest cat. When we have guests over we close her in the office where food and litter is, a big window and my fiancée chair that she loves sleeping in because I have chosen to have a guest over and making my home hostile to them as being in butthole. If a pet truly cannot be put safely into a separate room over the course of a short visit, then those people have no business hosting. No buttholes here. You can ask them to put their pets away before you get there, it's for your health and it's not rude depending on how you word it. But also understand they have these pets because they're important to them, and often feel like part of the actual family. They're not the Oz if they don't want to lock them up as long as you know beforehand. They don't have to agree to do it and it's okay. If you're worried about your safety and comfortability, why can't you hang out at your place? Or somewhere public, instead of trying to go somewhere knowing there's something dangerous to your health and also inconveniencing your friends? Info, if your allergies are this bad, why don't you host at your house where I assume there aren't any pets? Am I the butthole because I wouldn't give up my seat at work? So, I'm a receptionist who works a front desk. There are 3 seats available up there. I always sit in the same spot. I got to work first at 7:30 a.m. as usual and disinfected/meticulously cleaned my area because multiple people use it for their shifts and I'm a germaphobe. An 8 a.m. employee arrives. I let her inside and she asks, "Oh, are you in my spot?" Keep in mind there are 2 other available seats. This lady is typically very nice to me, so I kind of laugh and say, "Do you usually sit here when you work up front?" She says yeah, and starts unpacking her stuff in my face, near the computer, like she expects me to move. I tell her that I already set up. She says, "Oh, I can't sit anywhere else. This is my spot. Every time I work up front I sit here." At this point, it's getting a bit tense. So I tell her, laughing nervously, that I've already cleaned my area so I'm not moving. She tells me that if I'm not gonna move, she's gonna leave me up here by myself and go work in the call center. I tell her to go ahead and work in the call center then. So she leaves me up front by myself and does zero work in the back. By the way, I worked for nearly 3 hours alone on Christmas Eve with no backup before the next person came in to help. I don't know. I don't think I should have needed to move. There were 2 other seats. They aren't assigned and I was there first. I understand she might not have been as comfortable in a different spot, but I wouldn't have been comfortable moving either. And she likely expected I would just up and move because I'm very quiet and nice most of the time. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Nice job holding your boundary with Little Miss entitled. Is there anyone you can report her to for hanging you out to dry? Not the butthole, and I'd let your superiors know the situation in a sort of did I do something wrong way. You didn't, but this makes you come across as less tattling and more like confirming you are in the clear, which should not be necessary, but coworkers seem so petty it doesn't hurt to take this precaution. And when they confirm what you already know, which is that seats are not assigned, feel free to pass that message on to your coworker. And hopefully, your superior calls her out for her childish behavior. Not the butthole. How did she get away with not doing any work? I would let a supervisor know what she did, or next time, I'd give up the seat and then go to the call center and leave her to do all the work. Am I the butthole for hiding, not letting my roommate use the bathroom, hiding my dishes? Throwaway account, and sorry if the title is confusing. My roommate can very much be that guy all the time. This isn't the situation, but something that happened in the past was this. He always asked to use my car and I always said no. When I got a new car I got a stick shift car because I liked the car. He saw that as a personal attack against him, so he could never possibly drive my car. There is a master bedroom with a bathroom, a smaller room with no bathroom, and a normal bathroom across from the kitchen. I pay the most rent, so I get master bedroom. My roommate cleans the bathroom poorly, maybe once every couple of months. Usually if his parents are stopping by or something. So it is disgusting. Overflowed trash, dirty shower, and hair everywhere. I've never done more than have a quick glance in passing. If I have guests they only use or see my bathroom, so I don't really care. I also keep all dishes and food in my room. I'm not chef, so a small fridge/freezer. A few bowls, plates, and cups. A pot and pan and I'm good. My roommate has more dishes than me actually, but never washes them. He never asks me to do the dishes, but he'll look at me as I pass them by or bring out my own dishes. He's been seeing a girl lately and she stayed over the night before yesterday. For relationship reasons, but also because she got snowed in. I guess he made up some lie that his bathroom doesn't work and to knock on my door to shower. So at like midnight she knocked and asked. I told her his bathroom is fine. I didn't see what happened after that, but today he scolded me for showing her the bathroom and not letting her use mine. Apparently she just decided not to shower. Genuinely feel bad for the time she had to use the bathroom. The morning after that day he knocked on my door and asked to use a pan. I said you've got like 3 pans and pointed to the sink. His girl giggled and he was not happy with that. I think a good portion of his anger is him looking bad in front of a woman. The reason I feel like the butthole is because she was snowed in, so she was kind of forced to use a disgusting bathroom. She only just left this morning. I'm pretty sure they just didn't eat food for a while or ate crackers because he hates doing dishes. At one point he even asked me to order food to be delivered for everyone. So he wouldn't look like a dick that orders food during a snowstorm. He said he'd reimburse me and I said frick no. I don't feel like the butthole for him, but I feel like in making him deal with his mess. The girl suffered an uncomfortable experience. Gross bathroom and kinda starved for a bit. Not the butthole. Honestly, you're doing her a favor by making sure she sees how he really is. Not the butthole. You take care of your stuff, and he doesn't. It is not your fault his stuff is a mess. It's not your fault that you want to keep your stuff completely separate, no matter the situation, so that it stays clean. I would also feel slightly bad for the girl he's seeing, but that is still not your problem. If you want to be nice, I'd say it's fair to accommodate her, but I wouldn't be surprised if that backfired because you made him look bad again. Also, I'd say to get a new roommate. That's just my suggestion. Am I the butthole for yelling at someone for entering my obviously closed store? On mobile. My store on Christmas Eve closed at 8 p.m., The internet had the hours. We'd been answering the phone all day with hello, this is my store, we close at 8. And our doors had big signs with the holiday hours. On Saturday we usually close at 10. So, 30 minutes past 8, our door security gate is halfway down, and the automatic doors are turned off, and one is locked. For safety reasons, one was left unlocked. I'm halfway across the store finishing up stuff with my 3 other workers. The door suddenly opens. I make it across the store in 10 strides, not a small store, and firmly tell the guy making his way inside. Excuse me? You can't be in here. We're closed. He stopped shocked and told me, I thought you were open. I stand in his way and tell him, the safety gate is halfway down, and you had to pry open my auto doors. I'm obviously closed. You need to leave. Now. He got mad and said, I thought you were open. You don't have to yell at me, but don't worry, I won't be back. He backed out, ducking under the gate and left. I may have been a little forceful, but he literally had to pry open a normally automatic door. I told my family when I got home, and they're all like, wow, no customer service at all. So, maybe I could have been nicer? I don't know. Am I the butthole? Heck nah, safety first. Yeet him out. Not the butthole. Some people are going TK say, you could have been nicer. If it was 8:04 p.m., right as I'm closing my door? Oh, sorry dear, we're closed, computer's already shut down. But when someone has to manually open a set of doors that have no handle, a half hour after closing? How do I know you're not robbing me? Here to ransack the store? I don't owe you the risk to my safety for the sake of being nice. If he had been nice, he never would have come into the doors. Not the butthole OP, and stand your ground. It's 2022, and the customer is always right as dead, because it should have died a long time ago. Good luck OP, stay safe. Not the butthole. I work retail. At 30 minutes past closed with gate half down and doors off on a holiday, that was an extremely polite response. He knew damn well you were closed but thought his wants were more important than your needs. Not the butthole, there's no way he thought you were still open if the shutter was halfway down and doors disabled. Most likely thought if he gets in he'll have to be served and played innocent when called out. Am I the butthole for ruining White Elephant with a custom blanket of sexy Jesus? For context, the White Elephant gift was a small custom print blanket of a model posing, pouring wine down his chest, with a classic Jesus thorn crown, shirtless, and white towel around his waist. The top reads, Stepdaddy, I'm stuck on a Bible verse. In cursive. My family is not hyper-religious, rarely goes to church on Sunday. We have this white elephant every Christmas Eve, all of us are adults. The only rules were keep it at $20 max. When a family member opened the sexy Jesus, she proceeded to be very unhappy and go on a rant about how it was not funny and not in the spirit of the activity, that it really ruined the activity in general. Am I the butthole here? The gifts sometimes get a bit raunchy too. Have been over the years. OP, for the love of stepdaddy, share the picture. That's pretty tasteless. Perfect for a white elephant. I once had a steel battle over a talking vibrator with my sister's mother-in-law. Now there's a sentence I never thought I'd write. You just have to go all in or it's super boring. Not the butthole. Info, please explain stepdaddy, I'm stuck on a Bible verse. Serious question. Am I the butthole for suggesting my in-laws leave? My wife, female, 28, and I, male, 27, have been together for 12 years, married for 5 years. We have a 3-year-old who will be 4 soon. When my wife was pregnant, we agreed if the baby was to be born a girl, she would take my last name. If it was a boy, it would be her last name. Of course, she ended up taking my last name. This is important to the dilemma that happened this morning. My wife's family run a few restaurants that happen to be named after their last names. When my wife was pregnant, my mill was very persistent on the baby having the family name. We argued about it, but we eventually came to terms. Ever since this, my mill throws shade every now and then. Calling my daughter Ms. her last name and asking me when I'm going to change her last name to hers. On my daughter's birthday gifts and birthday present, she will purposely write the wrong last name. It gets on my nerves heavily, but I try to keep it to myself. I asks my wife why her mother does this and she claims, she wanted the family name to carry on. This morning they came over for breakfast and decided to give my daughter early Christmas presents. I noticed they again wrote the wrong last name and were calling her the wrong last name. I corrected my mill and told her she was using the wrong last name. She kept using it, so I simply said, I feel slightly disrespected right now and I'll be damned if I'm going to be disrespected in my own home. My mill's demeanor changed and she said she felt it was disrespectful I didn't give my daughter my wife's last name. I got very upset and told her she should leave. My wife jumped in and told me to stop. It's not a big deal. I walk away. My wife has been upset all morning saying I should apologize, then it's not awkward tomorrow during the dinner tomorrow. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. Your wife is enabling her mother's bad behavior and that has to stop. Your Mill knows she has an ally and will get away with it. I highly recommend marriage counseling. Tell your wife it's important for you both to go because your marriage depends on it. You two must present a united front and be on the same page or your marriage is doomed. Edit, I read some of your comments saying your wife thinks it's funny. It's not. It's disrespectful and it's gotten old. Edit 2, OP, please don't delete your post. We all want to see how it plays out. Besides, it's against the rules and you'll be banned if you delete an active discussion. Not the butthole. Your wife didn't have your back and is taking her parents' side inexplicably. You two need to have a conversation. They've been needling you for years. Plus, this has to be confusing for your kid. F Christmas, kick him out. You guys made a deal. The question is, why doesn't your partner have your back? Not the butthole. Your Mill is a massive and she'll have to live with the fact that her granddaughter will never be Miss Madeline Sparrow.